He didn't just refuse her hand, he looked right through her, a dismissal so cold it shattered the air in the multi-million-dollar boardroom. "I don't shake hands with staff," Damian Sterling said, his voice a blade of polished ice. The words hung there, obscene and glittering in the silence. Zara stood frozen for a half-second, her hand still extended over the vast mahogany table. She could feel the eyes of 12 executives burning into her, the weight of their judgment, their pity, their relief that it wasn't them. Her boss, Mr. Evans, flinched beside her, a tiny, spastic movement of a man watching his career evaporate. But then, something shifted. Have you ever been pushed so far, made to feel so small, that you don't break, you solidify? Instead of snatching her hand back in shame, Zara held it there for one beat longer, a silent, defiant challenge. Then, with a calm that unnerved the entire room, she slowly retracted her arm and folded her hands on the tablet before her. She didn't look down, she didn't flush with anger. She met Damian Sterling's gaze, and for the first time, he seemed to actually see her. What he saw wasn't a wounded assistant, it was a queen on a chessboard he didn't even know he was playing. The conflict wasn't just in the air anymore, it was inside her. This wasn't just an insult, it was the culmination of 1,000 paper cuts, every late night perfecting presentations that her boss took credit for, every time she was called articulate as if it were a surprise, every brilliant idea she'd had that was dismissed, only to be repackaged and presented by a man in a more expensive suit. This moment wasn't the wound, it was the salt being poured into it. "My apologies, Mr. Sterling. Zara is my analyst, a bit overeager." Betrayal. It was a sharp, physical pain. Not from Sterling, she expected nothing from him, but from Evans, the man she'd worked for, trusted, and made look good for 3 solid years. He had just thrown her under a bus to save himself. Sterling leaned back, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. He was a predator who had just scented blood. "An analyst," he mused, tapping a gold pen on the table. "I see. Well, Evans, if this is the level of professionalism your team operates at, perhaps our $7 billion merger is built on shakier ground than I thought." The threat landed like a grenade. $7 billion. A deal that would redefine the energy sector. A deal Zara had poured 60-hour weeks into for the last 6 months, vetting every number, analyzing every risk. Her work was the very foundation of the proposal Sterling was now threatening to demolish because she had dared to offer him his hand. Some of us know what it's like to be loyal and be left behind anyway. If you've ever poured your soul into something, only to be made to feel invisible, drop a yes in the comments. We see you. The tension escalated. Sterling, now in complete control, began to surgically dismantle their pitch. He attacked the synergy valuations, questioned the market projections. He wasn't just critiquing, he was humiliating Evans, who grew paler with each pointed question. Zara just sat there, her posture perfect, her face an unreadable mask. Inside, a storm raged. She felt the familiar weight of a small elephant charm of her bracelet, a gift from her grandmother. "An elephant never forgets, Z," her Nana's voice echoed in her memory, "and it never ever lets its family fall." Sterling was going for the kill. Your data on the acquisition target, Solara Innovations, it's thin. Their proprietary blockchain ledger for green energy credits, you haven't properly audited its integrity. It's the linchpin of their valuation, and you're treating it like a footnote. Mr. Evans opened his mouth, but only a dry hiss came out. He didn't have the answer. He had called that part of the report techno-mumbo-jumbo and told Zara not to bore him with the details. The room was a tomb. The deal was dead. Her career was dead. And that's when the quiet woman spoke. The ledger is secured by a quantum-resistant 24-word mnemonic seed phrase. It's updated every 60 seconds on a decentralized network, cross-referenced against 3 independent satellite systems. It's not just secure, it's unbreakable. Every head swiveled towards her. Mr. Evans looked at her like she'd just grown a second head. Sterling's smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of genuine surprise. He recovered quickly. Impressive jargon from an analyst. Where did you read that? A company pamphlet? Zara didn't flinch. She tapped her tablet and a complex schematic of the blockchain network filled the main screen. I didn't read it. I stress tested it. For 72 hours straight, I ran every simulation, every known hacking protocol against it. The system didn't just hold, it adapted. It learned. She looked directly at Sterling. You're right, the ledger is the linchpin of the $7 billion valuation, but you're wrong about it being a weakness. It's the single greatest asset in this entire deal, an asset your team completely missed in their due diligence. A heavy silence fell. This was no longer an assistant speaking out of turn. This was an expert delivering a masterclass. Sterling's eyes narrowed. The condescension was gone, replaced by a cold, calculating curiosity. You're a tech analyst, then, not just a note-taker. My title is irrelevant. My function is to ensure this deal is successful, and right now, it's failing. Not because of the data, but because you're asking the wrong questions to the wrong person. Mr. Evans looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He was caught between trying to silence her and the terrifying realization that she might be the only one who could save him. Sterling leaned forward, the power dynamic in the room tilting on a precarious axis. "All right," he said, a dangerous edge to his voice. "Enlighten me. Who is the right person?" This was the moment, the jump, the point of no return. Zara took a slow breath, her fingers brushing the elephant charm. Her Nana's face flashed in her memory, strong, proud, with hands calloused from a lifetime of work, hands that had held Zara and told her she was made of stars. "The right person," Zara said, "is the founder and CEO of Solara Innovations, the man who built that unbreakable ledger with his own two hands, the one person whose trust you need to make any of this happen." Sterling scoffed. "Obviously. We're meeting with Kai next week. My people are handling it." Zara gave a small, sad smile. It was the smile of someone holding 4 aces when the other player thinks he has a winning hand. "You can meet with him," she said softly, "but he won't sign, not without the final approval of his most trusted advisor." "And who might that be? His lawyer? His COO? Wait for it." The twist wasn't a bomb. It was a key turning in a lock no one else had seen. She looked him dead in the eye. "No, Mr. Sterling, the final word belongs to his oldest friend, the person he's trusted since they were kids coding in a garage, the one he calls for advice before any major decision." She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. "The one he calls Z." The name hung in the air. Z. Sterling's face went blank. It was the look of a supercomputer crashing. He replayed the last 20 minutes in his mind. The dismissal, the insult, the name Zara, the quiet confidence. The pieces clicked into place with an audible, shattering sound in the silence of the room. He stared at her, truly seeing her for the first time, not as staff, not as an analyst, but as the single most powerful person in the negotiation. You're Z?" he whispered, the word barely escaping his lips. Mr. Evans looked back and forth between them, his face a mask of utter confusion. Zara nodded slowly. "My full name is Zara Imani Thompson. Kai and I grew up together. He doesn't trust corporate giants, Mr. Sterling. He trusts people. He asked me to be on this side of the table, to be his eyes and ears, to make sure the company he built like a child wasn't sold to a man who didn't understand its heart." The room was frozen. She had just revealed that the entire $7 billion deal didn't run through the executives at this table. It ran through her, the woman he wouldn't shake hands with. He thought he had all the cards, but he didn't even know who he was playing against. If you believe in the power of the underdog, smash that like button. This isn't just her story, it's ours. The air crackled. Damian Sterling, the titan of industry, the man who moved markets with a single word, was speechless. He had built his empire on intimidation, on making people feel small, but he had just tried to make the wrong person small. He hadn't just insulted a staff member, he had insulted his potential partner's gatekeeper. The psychological trap was sprung. He could lash out, kill the deal, and lose the most innovative acquisition of the decade, or he could swallow the biggest piece of humble pie of his life. Zara saw the war in his eyes. She pressed her advantage, but not with arrogance, with strength. Kai's concern, she continued, was never about money. It was about legacy. He was afraid a company like yours would acquire his tech and bury it, or worse, use it for purposes that violate his core principles of sustainability and access. She gestured to the screen. He built Solara to empower communities, not just shareholders. Then she did the unthinkable. She began to pack her things, sliding her tablet into its case with a quiet click.
Based on our interaction today, Mr. Sterling, I have to say his fears were well-founded. A man who judges a person's worth by their job title rather than their contribution is not a man who will honor another's legacy. She stood up. I'll be advising Kai to pull out of the negotiations. Thank you for your time. Panic erupted. Wait! Sterling's voice was sharp, desperate. He stood up, knocking his chair back slightly. Wait! Please! Sit down! The plea was a surrender. The power in the room had not just shifted, it had undergone a tectonic reversal. Zara paused, her back still to him. Mr. Evans was staring at her with a mixture of terror and awe, as if he were a mythical creature he'd only read about. She turned slowly to face him. Damian Sterling, the billionaire CEO, looked humbled. The mask of arrogance was gone, replaced by the raw look of a man who had been completely and thoroughly outplayed. I was wrong, he said, the words sounding foreign on his tongue. I was arrogant, and I was wrong. Please, don't make the call. He looked at her quiet strength, at the unwavering dignity she held. What do I have to do, he asked, to get this deal back on the table? This was the turning point. This was where revenge could have been sweet. She could have crushed him. She could have walked out, leaving him in the ruins of his own making. But her Nana didn't raise her to be cruel. She raised her to be strong. Zara walked back to the table but did not sit. She stood at its head, in the place of power. The price of the deal remains the same, she said. $7 billion. But the terms have changed. She laid them out. An ironclad clause protecting Solara's mission. A new board seat reserved for Kai himself. A $500 million fund managed by Zara, dedicated to STEM education in underserved communities. It was bold. It was audacious. It was non-negotiable. Sterling didn't even blink. He said, "Done." He looked at her, a long, searching gaze. Your analysis of the ledger, it was brilliant. More thorough than my entire team. She said, I know. There was no boast in it. It was a statement of fact. A long silence stretched, and then Damian Sterling did something he hadn't done at the start of the meeting. He walked around the table until he was standing directly in front of her. The whole room held its breath. He extended his hand. Ms. Thompson, he said, his voice quiet but clear. My name is Damian Sterling. It would be an honor to be your partner. Zara looked down at his outstretched hand, the same hand that had dismissed her, the same gesture that had been denied. It was a full circle moment, the closing of a painful loop. She let him wait for just a second, a silent reminder of what had passed between them. Then she reached out and took his hand. The handshake was firm, solid. A deal not just of money, but of respect, forged in fire. As she shook his hand, her fingers brushed against her elephant charm. An elephant never forgets, she thought, but sometimes it teaches. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about reclaiming your worth in a world that tries to assign you a price tag. It's about showing them that your value is not in your title, but in the fire you carry inside. Share this story with anyone who needs to be reminded of their own power, because you are not staff. You are the CEO of your own soul.